Christ's sake, they're obviously never planning on hitting it. So that's why now is so important. That's why hitting the streets now is so important. And progressives need to understand, everybody needs to understand that the responsibility starts with voting. It doesn't end there. So that's what I have to say.
Make 3%? Is that correct?
Apparently it's
4?
I thought it was.
no, it was
Yeah, 4 there.
4%. The nation says anything above 4% in terms of the exit poll discrepancies and the final results is election fraud. Obviously, he's showing here significantly discrepancies above 4%. So why don't you tell me? Obviously, you don't trust the results.
Well, I don't trust the results at all because I know what we're up against. We're up against oligarchy, the billionaire class, and they control everything. They control the media, they control the electoral process, and it's blatant. And this time around, it was more obvious than in 2016. It's blatant, it's shameless, and we have to oppose it. And we take a look at all of the evidence that points at what we believe. For example, Bernie Sanders is the first candidate to have ever won. Pardon? For the popular vote, Republican or Democrat. No one had ever done that before, and he had just broken so many donation records. The guy was just phenomenal, and for him to just die out like that, it's just beyond questionable. It's pretty blatant and shameless cheating. And you look at these numbers; these numbers don't lie. The inconsistencies are just too. They're not coincidences. And what I'm here for is I'm opposing. I don't oppose any puppet because I just know that everyone that was running against anyone that was running for the nomination this time around that didn't run in 2016 wasn't here to oppose Trump. They were here to oppose Senator Sanders. So this is all just pointing in the same direction, and we're here to oppose those forces that are rigging primaries, that are forcing puppets on us, and giving us nothing for it. They're not giving us everything we need. Most importantly, we need a Green New Deal. We need climate action immediately. We're running out of time. We're apparently far behind schedule, further than we even thought. And like Eric said, if we're not going to get Medicare for all now in the middle of a pandemic, we're never going to get it. And that's because we're beholden to pharmaceutical industry interests and health insurance interests. And the people that own everything, they have all the money that they can do this. So we're trying, the yellow vests, we're out here to inspire people to hit the streets, letting them know that you can use your First Amendment. And you should use the First Amendment. That's what we were given our First Amendment right to speak out and protest. And we want to remind people that you still have that. We want to encourage people to do that. And hope that many more come join us because we're out here and hopefully you guys can be too.
And I believe it was Mr. Beck who filed the lawsuit against the DNC. And they are on record. The DNC is on record. Their lawyers, their legal team is on record, and I need to emphasize that, for saying that they can, in fact, rig their own primary elections. That not only can they're a private
organization,
and they're almost expected to. That everything else, this entire primary process, is just smoke and mirrors, political theater. So, again, to the point of the need for political reform. It's not just the fact that Tom Perez is trying to turn the Democratic Party into the Republican Light Party, or that he's holding the introduction to the Republican convention for next week. It's the fact that the Democratic Party does not even have transparency. It does not even have integrity in its own processes. And until we address that, and until we fix that, the party cannot be trusted. It cannot be allowed to continue as it is. So yes, do we need the Yellow Vest movement? Absolutely. Unfortunately, in 2017, when I said that protests are the future, didn't realize exactly how true and prophetic that would be. You got people from all over the country. You got people wearing flak helmets. You got people just look at the diversity here. This isn't just a leftist, frappuccino sipping, Los Angeles, gentrified, whatever talking point. This is Americans. This is the American people he is setting forth, and the Democratic Party is abjectly refusing to acknowledge it. And until or unless that changes, we have to fight. We have to stand our ground.
I have one final question that you started the second part off with, what to say to people that are saying just vote for Joe and all that stuff. I don't believe in vote shaming those people. But at the same time, I want to say to the people that can't vote, like me right now, and I want to say it specifically to Joe Biden, how do you expect the community of poor people or people of color to vote for you when you took away that right? That was your career legacy to this point. So you don't have a good ground game. And like I said, when you can't read the room, that same demographic is clearly not on the same page as you. So I don't believe in vote shaming, but like the guy clearly doesn't care about us, and that's why we're here to try to get a whole new nominee with Bernie Sanders.
That would be great.
Say for sale. Who do you think is going to be running the country if he's for sale?
Billionaire class has been for the last 50, 100 years, probably our entire existence. I think that when you look at the history of this country, it's really always been about class, rights. You can just look at fundamental messages, and with that, there's a fundamental misunderstanding about the history of it. It's an overly romanticized history that has very dangerous consequences because they will not address the real issues that this country is facing. So yeah, I mean,
Tell me more about the romanticized element.
this white nationalist fantasy about this country being built by pilgrims and not on slave labor and not on stolen land. And I think Biden is just a softer but still dangerous version of that. I think he's really, when he says restore the soul of America, I don't think that there was a point in America where our soul was something to really want to go back to. I mean, obviously it's a very metaphoric thing when we're getting into America's soul, but I just don't think that anything implying the test of past will catch.
You mean raping, killing from Native Americans, enslaving black people isn't something to ascribe to?
No. And, I mean, I think just the fact that they do want to return to the past shows that they don't understand some of the issues today, that slavery still exists, that the genocide of Native Americans is happening right now on this land that continues day in, day out. And so, yeah, I mean, they really just want to send this country apart.
So one thing that really makes me angry, during the debate, and frankly, I don't really think Bernie answered this well. They kept gaslighting, well, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Well, the first coronavirus bill, $4 to $6 trillion in 5 minutes. Literally. I mean, there was barely any negotiation. It was just $4 to $6 trillion emergency. But it was an emergency when I think at that point 40 million people didn't have health care. Not to mention people who do have health care but can't use it. So how is it that they suddenly had the money then, but they don't have the money now for what every other country that actually, cares about its people can do pretty easily?
Less than they get on that real fast, and they deliver that money right away when it comes to guaranteeing universal health care, from stopping the over 50,000 people who die every year just because they don't have adequate health insurance. When it comes to saving our environment, they never have the money. And that's because it's against their class interests. And it's simple as that.
And do you think, sir, you have the Medicare for all too? I mean, because I've met plenty of people that feel like shit, just aren't going to go to the doctor. So how many more people have died or gotten sick that they're just not willing to take the chance to get tested? I know they say it's free, but I know people that went to get tested, it wasn't free. I know people, I've read the horror stories, somebody was hospitalized, I think in Seattle, for 2 weeks, they got $1 million bill for coronavirus. So how many more people just have gotten sick, or this has continued because they don't feel comfortable, they'd rather not go bankrupt, so they'll stay home and hope for the best.
I have insurance through Obamacare, but I still try not to use it. If I'm sick, I don't go in. Since last year, my premiums have gone up 500% since last year. That includes the co-pays and the deductible and everything else. So if I'm sick, I just don't use it. It's the last resort, even though I'm insured, and it's ridiculous. I'm very sad that the Democratic Party has dropped the ball on this when 70-some% of the American population want this, and they're beholden to the drug companies and insurance companies. It's sickening.
And it's interesting because you always hear kind of Americans who want background checks. And 88% of Democrats want Medicare for all. They do it.
point, I can honestly see Trump winning again, just from what I've seen, and it's frightening. And I'm no Biden lover. I don't even know if I can vote for him yet. I probably make that decision when I have the ballot in front of me.
But you know what's interesting? I don't know. Biden could very easily just say, I changed my mind. I think we need to cover people through Medicare, at least through the pandemic. He'd win, even if he didn't mean it. And he just flip-flopped after the fact. They won't even do that. So it makes you think that, again, you said for sale. It seems to me that he's not really making the decision. It's like Kamala Harris.
Right, exactly.
She ran for president. I'm for Medicare for all. In 24 hours, she wasn't anymore. I'm pretty sure she got a couple phone calls from who's who. So it seems like Biden, Trump. I mean, I think Trump is terrible. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really seem like they're the ones ultimately making the decisions. It seems like the donors set how far you can go or can't go.
Right, and the media that was pushing him the whole time. He didn't campaign at first. It was all the media that was pushing him. And basically, Biden's had his donors. And he's just doing what he's told. I don't think he wants to be president. He's just doing what he's told, playing his part.
I saw you nodding when we were talking. What are your thoughts on? We're about 2 months from the election. Most polls show Biden winning, but I don't know. I watched almost all of it last night. Other than Bernie Sanders, I didn't hear anyone talk about actual policy. A lot of it was just a kind of a pageant, and most of it was Trump's the Antichrist, not really what you're getting with Biden.
Well, and everybody knows that Biden read that. It's all fluff. It's all fluff. I think whether it's cheating or not, Trump's gonna win. What they're doing with the mail system now, that's 23.5 million pieces of mail they're losing an hour. And Republicans don't care about going and standing in line because they think they're going to escape anyway. So who's that main person? It's all fluff. Trump, I think, is going to win. And the important note I want to make there is what kind of party loses to the worst president in history? And I mean, you see 15, 16 of us standing here. I know everybody's concerned about low turnout because of 2016. But people can't say that virtual business, if you will, isn't to be taken seriously. The whole convention is virtual now. We all individually represent thousands of people across the country who can't be here because of financials or what have you, Medicare for all. We're all rotting away, you know? And they just want to feed us this fluff, that's fine. But when Trump wins, you're going to be real mad. And I think you need to realize who your real enemy is. So, the people I represent personally, the March.Revolution Facebook group, we're green. We're not two-party, period. It's not happening. If for no other reason, on a neutral basis, regardless of who's what party, you can't have a fair process with only two parties. Period. We have to have a third party. As a matter of fact, personally speaking, if the libertarians want to come out here and step up and be a third party, you guys have full state access, ballot access. Do it. We need a third party. It has to happen.
I'd also like to know where you guys parties, but you can't have a fair election either if corporations have hijacked the media.
Gotta go.
So I see a lot of protests all the time.
Term limits.
I see a lot of protests all the time in front of Capitol Hill and this. I never see protests in front of the media, and they're the ones that push the propaganda 24/7. No offense to my older viewers, you're not old, but I mean, listen, look at Michigan. These other Bernie cleaned up under the age of 50. He got crushed over the age of 50. The people over the age of 50, our parents, they're being stuffed breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He's radical, the Bernie bros. You know, Biden's the most electable. You know,
They're dying because they can't pay for
their ways. You know, I've got my grandma dying in a hospital. I'm a 6-time cancer survivor with no insurance. Can't even take my own meds because I can't afford them. Because I can't afford them. And but you got people sitting on, you know, in the house.
You're a 6-time cancer survivor?
Yes, sir. Wow. Yeah, I've had multiple stuff just removed. So, but I'm $2.8 million in debt, and I'm 36 years old, and I can't pay any of that. How is that fair? How is that fair to my family that we can't even get a car loan because of insurance, of just simple health care? Because I was sick, something I couldn't prevent, you know? And now the money's there, you know, and I think that for me, I think the whole system's broken. Whether it's Republican, Democrat, the whole system needs to be rebooted. Otherwise, we're not going to get changes. You've got people sitting in Congress and Senate for 35 plus years that were elected when our parents were in high school. How are you still making decisions?
And I also want to point out, I think it's a lot easier to protest if you're not worried about getting fired from your job because your job gives you health care.
Correct.
So many people are worried about even taking a risk. People are afraid to go to the bathroom at work. Go ask Amazon workers.
Yeah.
But in Europe, it's just part of citizenship. So you go protest, and if you lose your job, okay, at least I have that safety net. Let's say, God willing, coronavirus is under control in a couple months or early next year. You guys think it's a matter of just not if, when at this point you get something?
Oh yeah. That's why there's not so many people here, is because when the progressive movement sees their heroes, their people that they look up to, like Dr. Cornel West, like Nina Turner saying, you know what, I will vote for Biden. Of course it's going to suppress, but like she said, he represents a lot of people. I do feel that this might represent the end of the progressive movements with any little bit of hope that was left to reform the Democratic Party. Maybe this is a sign of that. But the hints that Dr. West and Nina Turner gave online when they said stay tuned, when they said we're working with Nick Bana and moving for People's Party. So yeah, maybe it is just a matter of time. I'm really hoping that this is just the transition period that we're going through to be able to see what really is coming next, what these leaders in the progressive movement really have under their sleeve. And I just hope that's the hope I'm holding on to right now, because the hope of reforming the Democratic Party is not one that I can say I really will rely on anymore from this point forward. 2020 just made it absolutely clear, more so than ever compared to 2016, que nos robaron la gente. People have been robbed. Absolutely. So, thank you for doing it. It's not going to happen. The revolution is not going to happen without immediate revolution. My friend Sue Spicer with Sustainable Spicer from Indianapolis, Cozy Radio. We are working on this. She's working on this. Anybody who has a platform needs to start getting out there, needs to pull up their phones, independent media, citizen journalism. We gotta just invest in that.
I want to ask, because to me, at the end of the day, third party, take over the Democratic Party, whatever, I think Bernie, God bless him, did not want to go for the judgment. He did not want to take the gloves off for whatever reason. And I think when you look at Trump, there's not many things I'd want to copy. But he just didn't give a shit in 2016.
Yeah.
He called them all puppets. And I think people gravitated to that. I don't think Democratic voters are that much different. I think Bernie had several opportunities to go after Biden, specifically on his civil rights lies, this kind of thing. And you saw with calling Pelosi Mama Bear and these kind of things. It's like there's been this.
Because they already are just laughing at us. And I'm older, I'm retired. I just became retired, and luckily I was able to say, you have no future when you retire. Yep.
Biden is still for TPP. You protect.
Like, I feel that we're discriminating, that we're progressive now.
Our long-term goal and short-term, obviously, we're gonna start real